No, I lost you.
Il bello della diretta.
Yeah, I know. I pressed the wrong button.
Thank you, Katharina. There's no problem.
Okay.
Come dicevo, stasera abbiamo l'opportunità di parlare con Katharina Kubrick. Presumo che tutti conoscano suo padre Stanley Kubrick. Per me è un onore, penso che anche per chi vedrà la diretta sarà molto emozionante. Come sempre io vi auguro buona visione e chi conosce l'inglese io metterò i sottotitoli, però ecco anche io sono molto emozionato, quindi permettetemi di esserlo. Quindi buona visione e poi fatemi sapere nei commenti. Katharina, hi.
Hello.
And how are you?
I'm good. I'm fine. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm still here. I'm not getting any younger.
Yes. Like in Italy, there is the sun, there is the rain, there is the rain, and there is the sun. So it is very different.
Yeah, well, today it's been raining, and yesterday it was raining, and all week it's been raining. My garden is a pond. It's lots and lots of rain.
That's right. Katharina, thank you for your time and for your time. I want to ask you the first thing. Now, you are a painter, but you said to me that you do something very different. Can you tell us about your new project in jewelry and the other things you do now? What do you do now?
Well, my life has taken, like many people, we all change our jobs as we go along, and circumstances change. And I was at art college in London but I didn't want to be a painter like my mother. I wanted to work in the film business because I had worked on Barry Lyndon with Ken Adam as a photographer when we were in Ireland. And I realized that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be in the art department in movies. So I went back to art college, and then I studied architecture and how to be a draftsman. And so that's what I did. And I went into the film industry, and I worked in the art departments on various movies. I did that for a long time, but then I got married, and for various reasons, I couldn't work in the film industry anymore. And I had 3 children. I have 3 sons. And so, I needed to do something. So apart from looking after them. So I went back to my beginning and I started painting again. And this time I was doing it properly. And then so I did that for many years. And then I got a hand injury, and I couldn't hold a paintbrush and or draw or write a letter or anything. And so that was a bit upsetting. So I think if you're a creative person, you have to find a way to be creative, even if you have to change the medium that you use in. And I've always liked jewelry, and I did a bit of jewelry when I was at school. So now I make jewelry. I'm a silversmith or a metalsmith. So I work in silver and gold, and so that's what I do now.
It is very, very, very grateful to hear some words like you, because you're working in the art department, I think, with your father. And I want to ask you, what are the memories of working on a set like Barry Lyndon? Have you memories about your time when you were a director of the photography, I think, that in Barry Lyndon? What are your memories?
Oh, well, sure. I mean, I was 19, so we went to Ireland as a family, and so we rented a house, and he needed photographers to look for locations for the film. And so because he had taught me how to be a photographer, I would be sent off there. I think there were 4 of us, and we all went all over the country of Southern Ireland, and we were looking for good locations. And then I would report back to the art department every night where Ken Adam was. And I decided that this was something that I really wanted to do. And, it was so much fun. So that was my beginning. I never worked on any of Stanley's movies from the beginning. I was sent off looking for locations for, where did I go? Shining. I was sent to Alaska, to Anchorage, to set up a second unit shot. I was sent, and I was buying props for the set, which was built in England.
Okay.
And then I was looking for locations for Full Metal Jacket, because at one point he thought he might go to. We were looking at books of swamps and forests and things, and Stanley famously didn't like to travel very far. So I went to Portugal, and I was in France, and I was looking at Las Marismas in Spain, and which is a nature reserve, and we had been looking at photographs of Las Marismas as a swamp, and looked so it could be very Vietnamese looking. And so I got to Las Marismas, and which is just on the side of the Guadalquivir River, and it was a desert.
Yes.
I mean, it was literally
Yeah.
dry, and
Desert.
so I had to call Stanley up, and I said, "Look, there's no water here; it's a desert." And I said, "And it's a scientific park. They are not going to let you make a war movie here because it's full of scientists and cow skulls and vultures and things." So so that was a bit awkward. But so then I worked on I would just do bits and pieces, because by the time I was older, I was working on other movies, and
Okay.
I worked in on Bond movies, and I worked on Supergirl and Midnight Express, and I worked on commercials. So I did all kinds of things because I had to have my
Different
own
movies. Okay.
Sure, because I couldn't just always be the director's daughter. That's not a good way to have a career. You have to be your own person. So if I was not working on a movie and he was working on a movie, he would say, "Okay, I want you to have you got time? Go here, go there, go everywhere, and do these things for me." And so that's what I would do. So I worked for him when I had the time.
Yes.
I wasn't working on another movie.
Yes, it is very different, because you said then you create your own personality. You don't want to be Stanley Kubrick daughter. You want to be someone else and work on different films.
Well,
It
the
is,
thing was, the thing is that which you have to remember is that I grew up in the film business.
Yes.
So when I worked on my first Bond movie, people were saying, "Oh, you should give yourself a different name, Catherine Smith or something." But I walked into the restaurant or the bar, and I knew half the people there because they'd known me since I was a child. So there would be no point in me changing my name. And I didn't
it is
want to change
natural.
my
It is
name.
natural.
I didn't want to change my name because I'm very proud of my name.
Yes.
So what you have to do, though, so this is 1976, so it's a million years ago. And what you learn there were no women in the art department in the film business in 1976. And so I got in because I knew Ken knew Stanley. It was a favor. But I had a very big portfolio full of all my art school stuff. So, I wasn't just coming in there, sucking my thumb going, "Oh, can you give me a job?" I mean, I had skills.
Yes.
So they put me to work, and I was doing all kinds of really interesting things. And I was making the tea, and I was running around and doing errands, but I could draw and I could paint. So they gave me nice little design jobs to do. One of which was designing the steel teeth for Jaws.
Okay.
So that was me. that was my job, because everybody was too busy. There were 17 men in the art department, and they all just thought, it's not important. What they hadn't realized is that character, Jaws, was only going to be in 2 movies. But he became quite iconic. Anyway, so I did all the drawings and the sketches, and they were approved by the director and the producer. And then my drawings went off to a medical sculptor person,
Uh,
because obviously it had to be comfortable. He didn't like wearing them. Richard Keel did not like wearing them because they were very uncomfortable. But
I think that it was very difficult for him to put it down and keep it all the
sure,
time.
sure, because also Richard was a giant, and so his palate, his teeth were not aligned properly. So in any event, his teeth were not the way they should be. So for the dentist to make like a denture, essentially, over his existing teeth was quite challenging. But, you know, the way I designed them like cogs, I knew he couldn't have anything sharp in his mouth. So the thing is, he didn't have to talk when he had them in anyway. He didn't have to say anything.
It was the James Bond with Barbara Bach. It was
The Spy Who Loved Me.
Spy Who Loved Me.
And
with
then
Roger
after
Moore.
that, and then Moonraker after that.
Yes, Moonraker. So it was different.
What was different?
It was different the years, and I think that this character Jaws
Yeah.
was very iconic, and
Oh,
it
sure.
is and I think that it's very important to know that that the thief was made by you, and I think
Yes.
that
But
yes,
the thing is that being a woman in the art department, what I did learn, and Stanley said, you know, get there first, leave
job,
last,
yes.
and get to the job first, be the last to leave, you know, don't cry, which was
Don't cry.
sometimes difficult because the men they could be really nasty. And you could see that a lot of them wanted me to fail. They wanted to be able to say that I wasn't any good or I was just had the job because of who my father was. So what happens is you have to keep proving yourself every day.
Yes.
And you can't, you know, let anything slip. You have to be the best you can be because they want you to fall on your face. So that was a sort of baptism of fire, really. But I didn't want to work on Stanley's movie because then I would always be the boss's daughter, and you don't get respect like that.
It is true, because I think that later I said this thing is a good one. If you are a woman or or a man, I think that you have to create your own personality, and I think
Sure.
that your Katharina, your personality is very huge, and it is very important because I think that you're the one who said this, because so many people, daughter and sons of important directors, maybe they think, for me, there's no problem. I am the daughter or the son of the boss, and I want to work with my father. You, in your case, you have spaced in so many different ways. And you become with Barry Lyndon shining. But I want to ask you, before Barry Lyndon, you have worked, maybe you drawn so many sketches for A Clockwork Orange or not?
No, I was at school.
You were at school.
I'm not that old yet.
Okay. You have the age of my mother.
I was 16 when they were making Clockwork Orange, so I was still at school, and I wasn't allowed to see the film until I was 18. But you know, I would leave school, or I would, you know, say I had a tummy ache and then not go to school and go to the film set instead. And so yeah, I spent as much time on the films as I could. So because, you know, why wouldn't you want to do that?
I
Because
think
it's
that
fun. It's fun.
yes. I think that for existing, it was a fun. Have you memories about Clockwork Orange, the crew, the location? For me, for Clockwork Orange was very beautiful, like the classic walking on the Thames. I think that the location in this case of Clockwork Orange was very different, like the classic London City. It was the not the classic area like Piccadilly Circus. are
no,
outside
no,
the
exactly,
center.
exactly, because the film was set in an indeterminate future, so it had to look modern, more modern, but not being science fiction. So it had to be in the future, but in the foreseeable future. So, for instance, when you see Alex's mother and father in their little apartment,
Yes.
they have ridiculous wallpaper, they have ridiculous wigs on, all of that because it's in the future. So it was a sort of an undefined future. So that's why you didn't see typical parts of the UK, because it wasn't specifically the UK. It could have been any Western country, but so, for instance, the building that they found for Mr. Alexander's house was a very modern home. So the architect was, it was so we had to find, or they had to find the most modern and futuristic looking house that they could.
Like the car Durango
Sure.
95.
Sure,
It was a car. It was a car made. I don't know what is the brand of the car, but the car was very futuristic. I think that. So
yes,
totally different.
Yeah, so I mean, it was English, or it was British, but it wasn't. There was no time, there was no century that was set, as it were. It was also not a very expensive movie, so there weren't very many sets built at all. There was the I think they built the set for the Korova Milk Bar. That was a set. They built. I think when Alex is going to prison and he has to stand there and take his clothes off, and that was a set.
Sir. Yes, sir.
But mostly it was locations.
And I've heard the story of the soundtrack, because my channel talks about music. Your father was in contact with Pink Floyd, but Pink Floyd, they said to him, I don't want to give you the music of the album Atom Earth Mother. And why he chose, in my opinion, Pink Floyd, and later go to Wendy Carlos? I don't
know.
Okay.
I wasn't in his head.
Okay.
He didn't discuss those things with me. But if you're a director, people send you their music. He was constantly being sent people's records and their music, and so he listened to everything. He was himself very musical. He listened to music all the time because he loved it. But when he was looking for something slightly futuristic, and Pink Floyd were very famous at the time, so they were a highly respected band. So why wouldn't he approach them or listen to them? So because he listened to everything. I mean, when he was choosing, because he also was a very good dancer. He liked to waltz. He was a very good dancer, and he liked to waltz with my mother, and so he liked waltzes and dances and all that stuff, and the sort of the lyrical, completeness and the roundness and everything. So when he was looking for music for 2001, he listened to, I don't know, 10 or 12 different conductors' version of the Blue Danube, and we would hear, it over and over again through the speakers in his office. And actually, that's the way I learned as a child the difference that a conductor makes to a written score. And I can't remember who he chose in the end. Maybe it was Carrie Ann, but I can't remember which one he used. But anyway, so he listened to a lot. And Wendy Carlos had brought out a record called Switched on Bach.
On Bach, okay, with the Moog synthesizer.
And so that was very modern, and it was very different. And he was making a film that was set in the future. So it made sense.
It makes a very sense.
Yeah, but Wendy was Walter then. So first it was Walter, and then
Walter,
it was
later
Walter
Wendy.
Carlos, and then he became a she, and then Wendy wrote the music, some of the music for The Shining.
Shining, yes. Yes, Shining, yes. And I want to ask you, what is your favorite music, your favorite band?
Me,
Yes,
my favorite music.
yes,
Oh, I have. Well, I'm very old, so I like the music that I was, when I was young. So
yes, when you
I
was
like,
young, but now,
so, I still listen to, Simon and Garfunkel and the Eagles and the Doobie Brothers and Extreme, and Supertramp was a favorite, and Pink Floyd and AC/DC and
your
Led
stuff,
Zeppelin.
your stuff, Katharina, your stuff. It's better, your stuff, Katharina.
So, and nowadays, recently, I'm very bad. I'm very sad. I don't really know.
No,
Who's
now
I
there's no
don't know.
music.
I don't know who anybody is. And I know some people, obviously, but I don't really. I listen to, if I listen to the radio, I listen to talk radio and plays. So I am typical old lady. But if I listen to music at home or in my workshop here, this is my workshop.
Your studio, yes.
So I have everything from, Mozart and to Beethoven and Chopin and to
Classical music.
Supertramp and the song, and Michael Jackson and Aretha Franklin, and I like soul music. The only music I don't like really is very
Metal
modern
music.
very modern jazz.
Yes.
I can't there's no tune, there's no.
Jazz is very difficult.
Yeah.
For me, I am a drummer, as I said to you later. Jazz, it was very important for me when I studied. But I think that so many people said to me, "But jazz, there's no so much melody. It is very static."
It depends.
And it is.
It depends. I used to go to a jazz club regularly in London.
Ronnie Scott.
I've been to Ronnie Scott's, but this one was called the 606 Club in Chelsea, and it was down in the cellar, and it was very smoky and dark, like a jazz club
Foggy.
should be. Like a jazz club should be. And depending on who the singer was and how the musicians were, when you're really in a very small jazz club like that, and the singer's there, it's a completely different experience to listening to it on the radio. So
Yes.
it depends. I've been to Ronnie Scott, but it's too big and it's too
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't like it. But I like a lot of different types of music, and if you introduce me to a band or a new record and I listen to it a few times, and then I'll either like it or I won't like it. I don't like the music that my nephew sings, which is death metal or something, where they don't sing.
No.
I can't listen to it.
They sing like screaming.
No, I can't listen to it. I can't listen to it because I get a sore throat. Listen, and my nephew does that, and he's a very sweet boy. And his mother was an opera singer, so she would be very surprised to see what he's doing now.
But I think that it is, Katharina, a technique of the voice. Screaming, growl, it is the name of the technique of this singing. But I don't like it so much, death metal.
No, I don't like it either. I don't like it either.
And as you said, Supertramp, it is, I think, your best group, your favorite.
One of the favorites. And when my so I also did a bit of location when I was looking for locations, and I would have the music playing, and it was also Beach Boys and all those people as well. So the music of the 60s and 70s was what I grew up on. So but when I was taking the children to school, you're the driver and you have control of the radio.
I know that.
So
I
I
know.
would put cassette tapes in, and I would get them to, and I would put on Extreme or Supertramp, and I had all three of my boys singing Dreamer at the tops of their lungs on the way to school in the morning.
Crime of the century.
Yeah.
And for me, the best album, the best album of Supertramp, because so many people said Supertramp was an American band. Not. It is a little bit English and American. The drummer is American.
Sure.
But I think that the best album for me was Crisis, What Crisis? Crisis, What Crisis? And
Yeah,
later...
well, yeah, I mean, I don't have albums anymore. I don't have a record player anymore, but I've downloaded them all now onto my iTunes. I still listen to it.
And return to your passion of photography and so on. When you made Shining, the memories of Shining, Jack Nicholson, it was very huge. Have you memories about Jack Nicholson? Because for me, it is my favorite actor. Have you memories about this man?
Well, as I said, I was looking for locations for The Shining, and I was actually working at a different studio when they were shooting that, because Steven Spielberg was at the studio as well, and he was waiting to get onto Stanley's stages. And I obviously visited the sets and, said hi and everything, but I didn't work on the movie. And I met him a few times, hello, how are you? Oh, he seemed fine. He seemed perfectly nice. And, and Shelley and everybody, and they were all quite happy. But I didn't get to go very often because so I was working on the film before they started shooting. So I was looking for Indian carpets. I was looking for props for the storeroom. I was looking for clothes, American clothes. And I was in Phoenix, Arizona, looking at Indian carpets. And because we had been looking at American Indian folk art. We had all these magazines. And so Stanley said, okay, go to Phoenix, Arizona. We found this place that sells or that exhibits American tribal rugs. And then we want you to go from Phoenix, Arizona to Los Angeles, buy a few props, and then go to Anchorage in Alaska and set up a second unit shot for when Halloran's coming back in the snow. Okay. So I had 3 different jobs. And I got to the gallery in Phoenix, Arizona. Or where was I? Scottsdale. I was in Scottsdale. And I met this gallery owner, and I went to her very fancy gallery. And there were all these American Indian rugs, but they were art. They were incredibly valuable. So I had to call Stanley. I said, look, if you want to pay, $500,000 or $250,000 for this rug, that's what it's going to cost you. And he went like, oh my God. Okay. So they were copied. And in fact, when the set burnt down on The Shining, the Colorado Lounge set burnt down. And luckily they'd finished shooting, but there was only one original rug that was lost. All the rugs there were reproductions, obviously, because, if you have a film budget, you're not going to blow, $500,000 on wall decorations. So
you have to choose everything. I know about a museum about your father, and I see so many props of the set.
Which museum?
In England, I think that the Stanley Kubrick collection. I think that.
Oh, you went to the Stanley Kubrick exhibition?
No. I see on photos, and I think that it was incredibly good one.
Wait, did you go to the archive at the university?
Yes.
Oh, so you went to the archive?
Yes.
Okay, so not an exhibition, because the exhibition was the Stanley Kubrick exhibition, and it was in Rome many years ago. But the archive has everything else that isn't in the exhibition. So it's just finished. The exhibition's just finished in Turkey. It's just been there for a few months, which is lovely, in Istanbul. And I'm not quite sure which city it's going to go, but it's been to 22 cities or 23 cities so far around the world. So it started in Frankfurt, then it went to Berlin, and it was in Paris, it was in Rome, it was in Melbourne and Toronto and Seoul and Mexico City. So it's been, really doing the rounds. So it's doing very well.
I hope that this thing come to Milan, because I live near Milan.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if this thing could be done in Milan. For
Well,
me,
you have to ask Milan Museum to want the exhibition, because if you have an exhibition like this, you can't just say to a museum, we're going to put our show there. They have to ask for it. They have to want it. So if you approach a museum in Milan, then maybe they would want it. It did very well in Rome, I know.
Yes, in Rome, yes. I think that in Milan, in the center of Milan, near the Dome of Milan, there is an important palace. And I think that in this palace, it will be a good one thing. Maybe I can ask, because I think that
Milan is gorgeous. I was there a couple of years ago. I was on the jury of the film festival, and we were in Milano and Como, and I was there, and we were there at Christmas time. So we were watching lots of films. So I was part of a jury.
Okay.
So we were watching lots of movies, and then in Milano, and then we went to Como, and then which is beautiful, and then we had to make a decision, and then we had to pick a winner. But we went up the Duomo, and and I ate a lot of food. A lot of food.
Like in Italy, there's so much food. And have you memories about the food you've been eaten? Have you the memories? Pasta.
Oh, sure. I mean, anything with truffles. Linguine with truffaut, and well, it's all good, isn't it? I mean, there's no bad food in Italy. I came back, I'm size of a small family car. I would be very fat if I was in Italy.
I think that the only good thing it remains in Italy, the food. The other things gone very bad. So
politics, you mean? Oh, sure.
Politics.
Well, politics stinks in the UK. Have you looked at our government recently? They're all insane. They've done a lot of damage to this country. And then America, they're just insane anyway. So I don't know what they're going to do. I've been watching what's happening in America now with Trump being indicted, and we'll see what happens. I don't think he's going to go to jail, but whatever. Who's your prime minister now? I've lost track.
Our prime minister, our president. You want the name of the person?
Yeah, I don't know who it is. I forgot.
Giorgia Meloni.
Oh, okay.
Don't tell anything about it. I don't want to be rude on this thing. You, Katharina, you laugh, and you have to laugh, but you have to laugh and say so many bad words about this woman.
Well, it's laugh or cry.
Laugh or cry. Maybe cry is better. It's better to cry, Katharina.
When are your next elections?
I think
how long do they get to be in power? 2, 3, 4 years, or
3 years, and maybe
3 years.
They do like this, Katharina. It is a dangerous mechanism. It is a very, very, very rotten thing. They made on maybe September, and later they do the election in May or June. It is very foolish thing. I don't want to be rude, because I want to be rude, and they are fucking mad. They are fucking mad. Katharina, they are mad here in Italy. I want to say this. I want to come to England where when I was younger, I was in England, and for me it is better, or in Scotland. But in Italy,
Oh, I love Scotland. I do.
the only thing, Katharina, good in Italy is the food. The only things are rotten things.
And music and art. And
Music in
architecture.
Italy, there was some music. There was so many good singers and band, but now they are rapper, trapper. I don't want to listen anything. I think that
Well, maybe I wasn't talking about music now. Maybe I'm talking about more classical. But you know, I've been to quite a few places in Italy. From like the oldest city in Italy, which is in Matera.
Matera.
In Matera. So isn't that the oldest city in Italy? The oldest with the holes in the stones. And then I was in Venice, which I love. I can't tell you.
Tuscany.
I love Venice. And
Tuscany.
Spoleto.
Spoleto,
which was nice. And and obviously in Rome, but never for very long, only ever a few days. And I was in Milano, and then I went back to Rome. Oh my God, it was like 38 degrees, and I was there for a film something, and I had to talk to this film critic. I can't remember what it was now.
You have to go in Tuscany, Katharina,
in
Tuscany.
I would like to. I need to. I haven't had a holiday in ages, so I need to do that.
In Tuscany, Katharina, it is very good thing, because when summer will come, every summer I will go with my family, because my parents have a little house near Siena, near Siena. It is an important city of Tuscany, and I think that Tuscany have so much history, because there was Etruscan people, and it is a very important part of Italy.
Well, one day I'll get there.
Yes, I will go at the end of June. I think that when I finish my work and my sons stay at home by school. And return to the music. I think that my sons, because I have one daughter and one boy, I think that the music, it is very important. Like you, when your sons have been grown with Supertramps, my sons grown like jazz, Supertramps, Beatles. But I want to ask you, because I don't want to waste your time, but you're so sweet, and have you been thinking about to write a book about your life, an autobiography?
People have asked me, but I'm not a writer, and my memories of Stanley and all the traveling we did, and just our lives in general. I mean, Daddy's been dead 24 years now, and he's missed.
Yes.
Yeah, he's missed a lot. He's missed, but I mean, obviously, if he was still alive, the exhibition wouldn't have happened. He may have made another couple of films, because I'm at the age that he was when he died, and so yeah, it's a strange thought. But in another way, I'm very glad he's not around now, because he would be so unhappy.
Yes, I think that.
He would be so unhappy with what's happened to his country. He would be very unhappy with what's happening in the world. And, he would have been devastated to lose his daughter. So it's just, the one thing that I was always very grateful for was that he didn't have a long extended illness, and that he wasn't in hospital suffering. It was, boom, it was just quick, and a massive
quick one,
a heart attack. Yeah. And, that's all any of us could wish for, really, rather than being in a hospital with tubes in and out. And nobody wants that for themselves. So there was a small mercy that was the way he died. But of course, it was just too soon. And I think he had other films that he wanted to make, which would have been great. But I don't think I have enough memories to really put in a book. I mean,
okay. It is a private thing. I think that full of feelings. I think that
and also
it is very personal. It is very personal, Katharina.
A lot of those people are still alive too.
And I think that your father, if he was living, I think that maybe a project he could drive on was Napoleon. It was a film who want to make it. Napoleon was a project before Barry Lyndon, and later he put it down.
No, he didn't put it down. He wanted to make it, but Bondarchuk made a movie called Waterloo with Rod Steiger, which didn't do well. It didn't do well in the box office. So the studio said, "We're not going to back it." It wasn't Stanley.
Okay.
They wouldn't give him the money to make it.
Okay. But I think that it will be done by your father, Napoleon.
Well, Steven Spielberg's going to make it now, and he's going to make a I don't know how many episodes, but he's going to make a television extended
series. Series. Okay. Thank you, Katharina, for your time.
Okay.
It was a pleasure to be here with you. I will send you the link of my channel, and if you want, subscribe to my channel.
Okay, I will do that. And so we won't talk about politics because it's too upsetting.
No. For me, there's no problem to talk about politics. I think that
no. But we shouldn't. We just should not.
No. But I want to say that. Like the English politician, American politician, Italian politician, Polish politician, Russian politician, everything, they are all the same thing, the same persons. I think that for me, there's no problem to talk about visa.
No. I mean, in terms of for your equilibrium, for your peace. For your peace, for inner peace.
Inner peace, center of your soul. Center of your soul.
No, it's not a good idea. Anyhow, okay, well, good. Nice to chat.
Thank you, Katharina, and thank you for your time.
Okay.
Thank you for your art.
Okay, ciao.
Bye, Katharina. Ciao. Bye.